Hello, everybody. I'm going to talk to you today about what is schizophrenia. So, what schizophrenia is, it's a disease. It's a lifelong neurodevelopmental disorder. It's going to affect how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Things that are commonly associated with schizophrenia are delusions, hallucinations, disorganized speech or behavior, and impaired cognitive ability. What's common with schizophrenia is a lot of people will hear voices in their heads, voices that are not really there, that are just a figment of their imagination that's going on in their head. Sometimes people with schizophrenia will talk about strange ideas, maybe they're unusual. Sometimes this can make it hard to carry on a conversation with them. Sometimes people with schizophrenia are paranoid. They think that people might be out to get them, that people are plotting something against them. So with schizophrenia, the symptoms are usually seen and they first appear between the ages of 16 and 30. There are the rare cases where children can start showing these symptoms and be diagnosed with schizophrenia as well. There are three typical categories for schizophrenia: positive, negative, and cognitive. Let's start with the first one, positive. What are the symptoms for the positive? And let's first talk about what is it. It's referred to positive because the symptoms are additional behaviors not seen in a healthy individual. Symptoms can come, they can go, they might be there sometimes, they might be really noticeable, other times they might not be. So hallucinations, maybe they're seeing, hearing, tasting, feeling things that are not real. Hearing voices is extremely common. Another thing is delusions. This is when a person thinks or believes something that is not true. Maybe a person with schizophrenia thinks that somebody on the radio or on the television is talking directly to them. Maybe they think that someone is plotting something against them. Another positive symptom is thought disorders. So this is when a person has ways of thinking that are odd, they're illogical, it's weird, it's odd. People with the thought disorders, they have trouble organizing their thoughts. Sometimes they'll stop talking in the middle of a thought and they'll start making up words that don't really mean anything. Those are also typically common. Another positive symptom is a movement disorders. This is when a person has abnormal body movements that are not normal. They might repeat certain motions over and over, which is called stereotypies. And on the other extreme, a person may stop moving or talking for a while. They might not move, they might not talk for a long time. This condition is called catatonia. And those are all the positive symptoms. Negative symptoms. These are going to refer to social withdrawal, difficulty showing emotions, difficulty functioning like a normal person would. People with symptoms may need guidance. They might need help with doing everyday tasks. Simple things like brushing our teeth, showering, things a normal person might do. They might need help with that. So some negative symptoms are talking in a dull voice, showing no emotions, no facial expressions. They're not smiling, they're not frowning, they're not showing anger. They might have trouble experiencing happiness. They might have trouble planning an activity, sticking to the activity. Could be something like grocery shopping or setting up an appointment, things like that, things that that you need to plan, that you need to stick to. Another negative symptom is talking very little to other people. These symptoms they're tougher to recognize as a part of schizophrenia, and sometimes they are mistaken for symptoms of another condition, maybe depression or something similar to that. And let's go to cognitive symptoms. These are not easy to see, and they can make it hard for people to have a job, to take care of themselves. So the level of cognitive function is a big predictor for a person's ability to improve how they function overall. These symptoms, they can be detected only when a specific test is performed. So a lot tougher than especially positive symptoms and negative symptoms as well. There's 3 symptoms I have here. So the first one is trouble paying attention. They might have a lot of trouble paying attention. They might have problems using information immediately after learning that information. And they might have difficulty processing information to make a decision. So those are the 3 cognitive symptoms. Again, the specific tests have to be run to recognize those. So people that have schizophrenia, they're not necessarily violent. If somebody has symptoms of schizophrenia, it's very important that they get the treatment as soon as possible, as quickly as they possibly can. The risk of violence is greatest when a person who has schizophrenia has gone untreated, and the illness gets worse over time. So that's why it's important to get that medical attention as soon as you start seeing some of these symptoms. And they're much more likely than a normal person, a person that doesn't have schizophrenia, to be harmed or to harm themselves. Now let's go into drugs and alcohol. It is common for people with schizophrenia to have problems with drugs and alcohol. There's a treatment program that includes treatment for both illnesses is critical for recovery because misusing drugs and alcohol can certainly interfere with the treatments for schizophrenia, and I'll get into those treatments in the next video. So now let me get into what my personal experience with schizophrenia is. I've never had any students that have schizophrenia, and I don't know anybody personally in my everyday life that has it, but I have heard stories. And in one way I say that it's affected me is I lived in Los Angeles, and there's a very high rate for people that are homeless. And while we're on the topic of drugs and alcohol, drug abuse can increase the risk of suicide, trauma, and homelessness in people with schizophrenia, as well as increasing the risk of increasing development of other mental illnesses. So I think that kind of corresponds with why there's a big, obviously, population density, and I believe that a lot of people that are homeless do suffer from schizophrenia, and maybe that alcoholism and things of that nature add to the reasons why they're homeless. I have read that schizophrenia affects men more than women, and more men are homeless, significantly more men are homeless than women, and I believe perhaps schizophrenia might have something to do with that. That is certainly a possibility. Let's get into the causes of schizophrenia while we're still on this video. Genetics. So genetics is going to be key. Sometimes schizophrenia can run in families, but it's important to know that just because someone in your family or somebody in somebody's family has schizophrenia, it doesn't mean that other people in the family are going to have schizophrenia. Another factor could be environment. Things like living in poverty, being in a very stressful surrounding, and exposure to viruses and nutritional problems before birth can cause schizophrenia as well. Another cause is disruptions in brain structures, brain function, and brain chemistry. These could be a result of genetic or environmental factors. So it really comes down to the genetics and the environment. The researchers have, we've been learning more and more about schizophrenia, but there's still a lot more to learn. There's a lot more that we don't know about it.